I'm Jonah Comstock, Editor-in-Chief of PharmaForum. I'm here at Reuters Pharma USA. I'm joined by Maruno Perugini. Is that
Well
right?
pronounced, that's correct.
I'm joined by Maruno Perugini. He's the president at Nestle Health Science in the pharmaceutical division. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Jonah, for inviting me.
So you're actually presenting at a panel later today, right?
We're going to be talking about how to evolve the models to launch pharmaceutical drugs in an evolving healthcare system. It's a very exciting journey.
So tell me a little bit about what you do at Nestle.
I'm the president for the Pharmaceutical, Active and Medical Nutrition Division. This means that my responsibility spans in between drugs, medical nutrition, and consumer care products. And what we do, we really are advancing the frontier of what innovation in healthcare is by providing to doctors solutions beyond pharmaceuticals, including but not limited to pharmaceuticals. And today I'm going to be particularly talking about the first launch of oral microbiome technology in this country. Very successful. The name of the product is VOWST, V-O-W-S-T, that is indicated for patients with recurrent Clostridium difficile.
Fascinating. Yeah, I've been hearing a little more this year about the microbiome. It seems like it's starting to get more attention, but still very much kind of a niche thing at a conference like this. Why should people be thinking more about it, and what are the kind of effects that this can have?
Totally, I'm happy to articulate that. And the reality is a lot of drugs failed, a lot of trials failed in showing successful impact on the microbiome to treat disease, make it acute disease, chronic diseases, and VOWST has been successful to a full development plan and approval from the FDA. I believe that we are starting now to harvest the power of microbiome. There is some small studies showing impact in other disease states, and there is important one showing the impact on, for instance, in Clostridium difficile. I'm excited because the reality is that it's a new way of treating disease that was not even thinkable a few years ago. And now we have proof that it works. And I'm telling you, after the successful launch of VOWST, 6 months ago we started, I think that the HCP, the healthcare professional community, is ready. One of the big lessons that we learned in the launch is we were thinking how difficult it's going to be to have doctors and healthcare professionals and the scientific community and patients understanding the complexity of the microbiome, the microbiota, how it works, and the way things connect. The reality is when they see that the product is extremely efficacious and safe, it doesn't really matter. They just see the benefit of it and they're just ready to say, okay, what next?
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you're here to talk a little bit about kind of some of the macro ideas about commercialization, about market access. Tell me more about that, the panel that you're on.
Yeah, totally. I think that what we learned has been the importance of managing the complex healthcare system we have in the US as soon as possible, ideally during the development phase. We know that clinical endpoints for a successful FDA, it's no more enough. Historical has not been enough. You need to bring data that are resonating also for an HCP perspective, as well as the broader community, including the payers. And that's what we did.
Right.
Throughout the development, we have been involving and working with the broader community, including but not limited to payers, to ensure that the reception of the product would have been successful.
Interesting, yeah, and that sort of brings you towards the value-based care discussion that I've heard a lot about today, and value-based contracting.
Indeed.
Yeah, you need that data if you're ever going to consider sort of those sorts of relationships.
I think that the main point is clinical data not only sometimes are complex to interpret, but also works in a perfect environment like a clinical trial. So there is more and more discussion about real-world evidence or data on the way you and I behave when you're not in a clinical trial, in the real world. And that is what seems to be very resonating for, I guess, the broader community.
One thing I've heard folks talking a lot about at this show is pricing, drug pricing. And I've been asking one question to sort of everybody to kind of for like a quote roundup and get a broad perspective, which is like systemically, what changes need to happen in order for drugs and therapies to become more affordable for patients?
Totally. I really believe that regulators are looking our way to make it more affordable for some communities. IRA is coming our way, as a matter of fact, and is going to be looking after, I guess, the Medicare Part D population. Um, the Italian New Year is Italian, so I'm coming from the old continent where we used to have evidence-based medicine. That means also looking at outcome. And I believe that the more we are able to trigger health economic thinking in our way of assessing drugs, the better we are.
Yeah, I mean, it occurs to me that sort of new modalities like oral microbiome, it does potentially provide kind of more options for treatment. Could ultimately lead to more sort of better pricing. Is that, I mean, is that something? How do you think about cost and pricing as you sort of are developing these new treatments?
So, for answering the first part of your question, totally. The opportunity behind is huge. Specifically for the product that we just launched, we know that a patient with one recurrence costs $80,000, and from there, 130 keep on growing all total cost. So the opportunity is massive from a healthcare perspective. From a drug perspective, I guess the second part of your question, I really believe that the affordability is more and more a component for each and any of us. Now, that cannot be sorted out only by manufacturer, because the reality is that also health insurance play a big role in this country, together with, I guess, the government for some of the channels. So I really believe that there is a need and a call to action on what together we can do to make it more affordable.
What are some of the things you've been hearing around the show, some trends maybe that we haven't talked about that you think are kind of interesting, or some of the big takeaways? We're getting close to the end of day two.
I was pretty impressed with some of the discussion on value-based agreements, and again, it's the topic you were just saying on paying the right price for the value that the product bring, and I believe that that's very exciting. One hope that for the future is to go beyond the pharmaceuticals and really looking at the healthcare system overall, right? Pharmaceuticals represent one part, not the most significant, as a matter of fact,
Yeah.
of the healthcare system and the cost of the healthcare system in the US. And I really believe that there is opportunity of getting together and evolving it.
Yeah, you're not the first person I've heard mention that, but
I think it's a reality.
people do like to kind of beat up on pharma, but when you look at where the actual costs are, hospitals are really a big.
I think that depends on which data you look at, but there's the single most significant line.
Yeah, absolutely. What about AI? That's the last thing I've heard of people talking a lot about that we haven't really talked about yet. Are you starting to use AI? How are you thinking about that kind of aspect of innovation?
We do. So let me tell you a bit of a secret. As a background, I am a scientist with a lot of, at that time was called big data. That was, again, the historical view on some of the artificial intelligence, the ability to compute a lot of data and make informed decisions out of it. I'm all for it. We as a Nestle Health Science are investing significantly to use automated algorithm that can help better decision making, not only in informing the customers on some of the decision and again for them to review and to decide, but also in terms of early development, looking at is there a possibility to identify the patient that most likely going to respond to certain intervention. So it's a big opportunity. We are fully committed to that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me.
You're more than welcome.
Really interesting stuff, and good luck with your panel.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.